Hey there, Cheesemeisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff, and I am removing the superfluous buns. And joining me on the other end of the internet is my cuz-host.
I'm Leslie, and a blender? What is this, 1958? Give the little wife a blender. It's scary,
Scene.
Scene.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like it.
Free
I like
for
that
your needs.
I like that you went for um the least, I don't even know how to say it, but there has never been a hitch in a romantic comedy that was lower impact than the blender.
I know.
Like
They couldn't
it's
even they couldn't even try.
it's so soft. It is such a soft problem to overcome, and I'm not saying I don't like that for this movie. I kind of love that there's almost no drama other than the internal struggle that George Banks is fighting in every scene he's in. The rest of it
Yeah.
is just fine. Everybody's fine. It didn't need it.
Yeah.
But that is very low stakes. He bought me a blender.
Listen, do I spend too much time trying to pick out an outfit for this now? Yes. But
I did change my shirt and put on a t-shirt. I'm a t-shirt guy in this
I
podcast.
see it's snuffy blue.
It's not. It's
Snuffy.
I make pasta after. So yes, thought I was wearing a black t-shirt, but it turns out it's navy blue.
Mm.
All right. So this week we are doing we're doing Father of the Bride, the 1991 Weddings Cost How Much masterpiece, starring Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Martin Short, Kimberly Williams, Kieran Culkin, George Newbern, and B.D. Wong as Howard. We are doing this in. I wasn't planning on doing a Howard impression, but I kind of liked it. I feel like I got pretty close there.
You did.
Howard.
Safe one.
It isn't. No, it totally. Even Franck's accent is safe because it's made up. It is silly sounds. I mean, it is
exactly
like even the conversation he has with the caterer who passes. They're not saying any words in any language. It's just gibberish. It's so silly. We are doing this in conjunction with season 2, episode 28, Wedding Bell Blues, for obvious reasons. Our spelling connection is Martin Short himself, who did an episode of The Love Boat.
Oh, wow.
It's the joy of The Love Boat. You got people on their way up and people on their way out. And like present day TV stars of the 70s and 80s. Like that's, you get a lot of Anson Williams on that show. And, God bless Potsy, who directed some 90210. I know we've discussed it, but.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I'm all over the place, by the way.
That's okay.
So, Father of the Bride. I'm assuming you've seen this movie. I'm assuming that you previously have loved this movie. Am I correct?
TBS growing up? Yeah, this was on TBS a lot.
It was. Yeah, it was.
So I've seen this. I love it. I love the sequel more, to be honest.
Interesting. Okay. I haven't seen
I don't know why.
Much, so
maybe I've seen the second one more. I don't know. It's just it strikes it. It makes more sense to me why they're paying all this money for like a baby, because it's a human and humans have financial needs according to capitalism.
Right.
This movie's fucking insane. Like,
okay.
Watching this as an adult is so different than watching it as a teenager who is all like, ooh, yay, weddings, love, la 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 la. And it's like, right. Yes, I still love weddings. Mm-hmm. I love going to them. You know why? Because I only had to pay for a gift.
I like it. So, yeah. All right. But so there was a continuum in your life where you were pro Swan and now you are anti Swan. Basically, the evolution you've made.
I mean, I think most smart kids go through this where you're like, yes, this big thing that adults do sounds amazing. And then you learn about money outside of Monopoly and you go through some torturous times and you're like, that's stupid. That's what they want you to do. And you're pulling
Yeah.
at your hair and you're like, I can't do this. So yeah, no, big wedding, not going to happen for me. I'm fine with that because not only do I not have the money, Ember, listen, my dog is panicked over this.
That's right. I get
That's what
it.
the wedding industry does. No, I just don't have the zen to plan that big of a party.
So okay, so let's start there, I suppose, because that was some stuff. There was stuff there that I want to talk about. This
Okay.
movie is about Steve Martin, whose daughter comes home from a summer or studies, like a semester abroad in Rome, um, engaged to a man she met while she was over there. She is 22, which apparently is fine, marrying age. Freaks George out. And he spends the entirety of the movie freaked out about the cost and all of it surrounding this wedding that they're going to have in their house. And then she gets married, and that's the end of the movie. Like that's that's what happens. It's a remake of a Spencer Tracy movie from the 50s. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not.
I have, because I like this movie so much. I watched that at some point. I like this much better. But I like Steve Martin a lot better than I like Spencer Tracy. So,
Who doesn't?
Yeah. I mean, Steve Martin is my favorite comedian of all time. So
Nice.
I was, excited to go see anything that he came out in. And this came out when I was in high school. So I saw this in the theaters and I fucking loved it. Yeah. It's very funny. Like, it has a lot of great lines and a lot of great physical comedy. And Martin Short is ridiculous. I mean, he's just all in his Franck the whole time.
Yeah.
But okay, there are, to my mind, 3 universal rackets that we as a society have decided at some point and to some extent we're going to just buy into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? One of those is Disney World.
Yes.
That is a fucking racket, but it is delightful.
Tourist trap.
Yeah, but
delightful.
God damn if it's not fun. Like, it is. We did it a few years ago. It's way too expensive. Every part of it is way too expensive. You know you're being bilked. You know you're being sold at every moment of every day. And it doesn't matter because it's great.
Yeah.
But it's a racket.
Yeah.
Funerals are a racket and a half.
That's true.
I mean, we're aggrieved. We're not saps. Like $250 for an urn, even if it is your most modestly priced receptacle, go to fucking Ralph's and get a Folgers can. Funerals are a racket. The shit they make you pay for when you're bereaved. But everyone does something for a funeral. Like, you buy into a certain, and headstones are a fucking racket. The plot of land is a fucking racket. The guy next to you who died in 1945 paid a lot less for that square of land that you're sitting in than you did. It's a racket. But everyone buys in. Everyone does a burial, does a headstone, or they do a cremation, which is cheaper, but it's still expensive.
They found a way to make that a racket too, which I'm like,
fucking racket.
Depending on how much science.
Right. Depending on how much that shit matters to you, you are willing to pay for it. That's what, like, every single person makes that decision, but everybody pays something into this racket. Weddings are the third racket.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, and this is what I tell. I've been married now for 18 years. So when I got married, it was cheaper than it is now, but more expensive than it was in this movie. But we did not have this kind of wedding, so it was not more expensive than this movie.
Should hope
And
not.
anytime someone gets married, this is the advice I give them. Weddings are binary events. At the
Mm.
end of the day, there's only two outcomes possible. Either you got married and it was a success, or you did not get married and it is a story. Those are the only two outcomes that are possible. So if at the end of the day you got married, you had a successful day. And
Mm-hmm.
all that shit that you've been worried about for the last year and a half, none of it matters. Because at the end of the day, you got married. And I find that that takes a lot of pressure off for people. Like just that little piece of advice when I've told people that they're like, you're right. Like it helps to just relieve a little bit of that tension that's because you worry. You get all up in your
Yeah.
shit out, like is it right foot together, left foot together, or is it left foot together, right foot? And as the bride and the groom, you do that about every fucking thing to the point where you're just like you worked yourself up over this whole racket,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the day, you got married. It's great. It's fine.
Yeah.
And everybody buys into this to some degree. Some people way less than others. Some people are like, just go fucking courthouse. We're doing it. Like, we're done. We'll have a party later and someone can give me presents.
Yep.
I highly recommend getting the presents. Just for all you non-married folks out there, get the presents. It's good.
I do want the presents.
Presents is nice. And make sure you put one of those KitchenAid mixtures on your list. You won't regret it. It's been 18 years. Ours still works. It's fucking awesome.
I got one for my graduation because that was a far better gift than what they had originally thought. Like, not to look a gift horse in the mouth, but I knew what my needs were and still are.
Right.
However, I would like to upgrade it to a rhinestoned KitchenAid.
Oh, I don't know what the difference is other than Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone.
One is rhinestone. One is completely covered in rhinestones.
It's been
What more do
bedazzled.
you need to know?
It's all
Sir.
all you had to say to me is bedazzled, and I'm like, oh,
What
I get it.
if someone is willing to either bedazzle my KitchenAid or yeah, that's what I need. That's what I need as a married woman when I become one.
So if Walter were to give you a bedazzled KitchenAid, you wouldn't think that it suggested something about 1950s,
No, I
gender
love
politics?
baking.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, good. So noted.
Noted.
Yeah. And so this movie is about the degree to which you are willing to buy into this racket. And George throws the flag right away. George is like, let's do this at the barbecue pit.
Steak pit.
Steak pit where they serve barbecue. Because George is right. This is a binary event. At the end of the day, if you're married, super great.
Yeah.
But he has no ability. He's not in charge of this. He's the guy who writes the check at the end. And I was writing down my notes for this, and I always have like an about the movie section where I just put some things down. And I realized that one of my notes for Touch of Evil applies equally to this movie.
Oh, no.
This movie is about the desire for control. Just like Quinlan was trying to control the entire investigation, and to the point where he was planting evidence and all this, George is trying to control this entire event. And it's so far beyond his control. So he and Quinlan, same. Except for one of them makes tennis shoes.
Yes, he does.
It's Steve Martin. Quinlan didn't make tennis shoes.
Oh, okay. I was like, I hope I have that right.
You did. You nailed it. High five. So tell me about where you land in the racket as it pertains to this movie. Are you like George is right 90% of the time, or George is an asshole 100% of the time, or like where do you fall?
I mean, I would say I'm about 70%, maybe 80% on George's side. Like the way it starts, he comes off as, stereotypical dad, like, gotta protect my daughter because she can't make decisions on her own. And it's like,
Right.
there were some things in here that I don't think they meant for it to come off like sexist, but it just
Hmm.
does. Like, and that's just going to happen in this kind of storyline,
Hmm.
like they do the same thing if the mother of the groom is, getting possessive. Like they do these weird things where they have people be possessive of their kids
Hmm.
or seem possessive of their kids, and it's like it's so when it looked like George was all about just controlling his daughter, I wasn't a fan. When it became more about, I'm just going to miss her, and I also am going to miss having all the money that I could have had if
Right.
I had it for this wedding,
Right.
that made so much more sense to me. And yeah, George is right for like 70 to 80% of this movie. It is ridiculous how they go to one wedding coordinator and they're like, yeah, this is the one.
Right. Hmm.
They find out it's going to be 250 a head and they're like,
Hmm.
all right, well, the final number's 550.
Yeah. By the
They
way,
don't anything. Oh, I know the numbers.
you did the math. I did the math as well.
Well, I didn't do the math. I looked up articles to see, because I knew someone else had probably already done it,
Sure.
and I
Sure.
wanted to see the median cost of weddings in 1990.
Okay. So I do want to know that, but so I just they gave the head count at one point at 572. So I took that times 250. That wedding cost $143,000.
Just to feed people.
Well, for all
That's
the
just to
Franck.
feed people.
No, that was Franck's whole package.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, that wasn't just the food. No,
Oh, I thought that was totally just the food.
no, that's the cake. That's the parking attendants. That's Franck and Howard. That's all the food. That's the tent. That's the chairs. That's the swans. It's all of it. It's the lights. It's like when they had to knock holes in his house. Like it was that, you know.
Yeah.
So no, that's the whole everything that Franck did. $143,000.
And that's still not including like her wedding dress and
Right.
then, all of their outfits.
Doesn't
Yeah.
include the
It's
church, I wouldn't imagine. I guess they could have done that. They could have had the wedding coordinator pay the church fee and then paid them. Could have incorporated that if they wanted to, I suppose. I would have wanted to do that if I had a wedding coordinator. Like, let me write one check. Like, the purpose of this is to make things easy. So,
yeah.
but they might have had to pay for the church because it was free, available, not free.
Ah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, that again, just
So, what was the median cost then in 1991 for a wedding?
$8,000.
Almost
Eight
bit
fucking $1,000.
$143,000. That's a stupid expensive wedding today, I think.
It is. And you get aggravated watching it too, or at least when you're me and you're like, mostly unemployed, looking for work and frantic, because you're like, you idiots have money. This is me holding my fake cigarette and everything. Like, you have money, you're both doing fine, you can afford this. But then I'm also thinking, that doesn't mean that they should pay that for a wedding, though.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
and it is. I mean, I guess they can afford it because she's like, well, we'll just not go to Europe for 2 years in a row or whatever, and like
y'all are doing Europe crazily if that is 2
Right.
years.
Right. And so they clearly aren't hurting for cash. But I'll say this in George's defense on this part of it and on your read on his initial reaction to her.
Mm-hmm.
He did not see this shit coming.
No.
And why should he? His daughter is still in college. She just went away for a semester abroad. She's 22. He didn't even know she was interested in being married. Much less like starting a mental clock in his head like, oh, I bet she'll be married between 25 and 30 or whatever imaginary calculation he had come up with. none of it was 22. So, like, his reaction to, you're a child, this is ridiculous, what are you talking about? I get it.
Yeah.
Like, this was not on his radar. And it wasn't on his financial planning radar either for 5 months from now, which, by the way, is really a short amount of time to get a wedding together. Especially one I mean, if you want, I mean, now they didn't have the venue problem, but in a city like Chicago, in a city as big as Chicago, you've got to get your venue, if you're going to do a fancy ass wedding, at least a year out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's places you can get that are available next month, but there's a reason they're available next month. You know, like literally every other wedding chose somewhere else. So you can't do this shit in 5 months. It's crazy. But 143 fucking grand for some swans.
Well, and I just realized too, because I, for some reason, thought she had graduated from college, and no, she's still in school, right?
Yep. Yeah, she hadn't finished yet. She's close. I think she's probably got a semester left.
This is where I sound unromantic. Like, why did you have to get married so soon?
Yeah,
Is
you
it
could have.
is it because it's the 90s and they're still trying to play like, oh, no one's having sex before marriage, they're waiting? Yeah. It's like,
no, they weren't doing that because he made the condom joke.
I know, but again, it's hard. It's hard to tell. And then, you know, maybe they were doing the thing that some couples do too, which I'm not going to hide my judgment well, but some couples who are like, well, we just won't have sex while we're engaged. That way it's like, you know, re-virginizing.
Knock yourself out, you nuts. That's crazy. But
go for it.
Knock yourself out. That's weird, but okay. It's not any weirder than a lot of other shit that I've seen and heard of. So.
That's true.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that she's getting married in 5 months. Like, why would you plan a wedding and try to finish college at the same time?
Yeah.
That's too much shit to do. You know, like just finish out the school year. And you can be planning the wedding while that's happening. But she's talking about, if, like, let's say it was, because when they got married in January. Right? Because it's like a cold. Yeah, they got married in January, which means that she came back and got engaged in August? Ish?
Oh, ish, yeah.
You know, because, hello, 5 months. That's very tight. We can do it, but it's very tight. So that means it was like August, so she was at summer away.
Yeah.
So she has at least a year left of school. She's 22, which makes her a little old to be going into senior year.
I mean, that's about how old I was going into senior year, so maybe she's a fellow summer baby.
Yeah. She's probably one of the older ones in her class, would be my guess. So she plans and gets married during her last 2 semesters in college. Why don't you just plan the whole school year and get married in June?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a venue problem because you're doing it at your house anyhow.
Yeah.
I feel like it would make your life so much easier to wait.
Yeah. Nothing was done for ease in this movie.
No. And so George, I think I'm probably in the 80 to 90% on George's side in this movie. Like, he goes a little crazy and and acts nutty and like wants to save money in weird places, like wearing his old tuxedo and stuff like that. Or like getting his tuxedo made from a guy he knows.
No.
Yeah, like he tried to cut corners where he could, and those were sort of funny. But he's just right. This is dumb to spend this much money on all of these things. It is flour and eggs and water. It is not you don't have $1,200 for a cake. It's ridiculous.
I did watch wedding shows for a while. So like
Uh-huh.
Say Yes to the Dress, Amazing Wedding Cakes, and all of
Hmm.
that. And I mean, I quit after a while because at some point you just realize, oh, it's just going to be an insane amount of money spent on something that is really fucking cool, but also one's going to be worn once, the other
Right.
is going to be consumed,
Hmm.
never seen again.
It's a racket, and that's the level to which you have bought in. You know,
Ugh.
and they bought all the way the fuck in, and uh, it it's dumb. Like how much they spent
I
on this thing.
I think I'm just going to do a nice little Victorian style wedding, except one where I get to pick the guy. Awesome.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
thumbs up. Ah,
you know.
interesting wrinkle. Tell me how that would work.
Yeah, we just have a few people, one of our friends is ordained and we're having it in their living room. Like, that
Mhm.
Victorian weddings, small, great.
Probably cholera.
Maximalist furniture,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't have to wear white because who am I kidding? I'm not interested in lying. My mom just screamed at the.
Did you let touch your dense breasts?
What? Oh my god. Oh, I'm bringing up now. I don't even know where to go. That was so perfect. All right, episode's done. This is great. I've got nothing to compete with. Jesus.
I love it. This makes me happy.
Gee, oh, my stomach hurts now.
Oh, good. All right, so let's. I do have one more thing I want to talk about, and I think it leads well into your adventures in intimacy. Um, this movie works really well, and
Mhm.
it works really well because I believe every one of these relationships.
Yeah.
Not Franck and Howard, but like because they're cartoon characters. But I believe that George and Annie are father and daughter and that they deeply love one another.
Yeah.
I believe it all the way. Like, I believe it to the point where it's making me cry to think about it.
Oh.
I believe that George and Nina are a very much in love team.
Mm-hmm.
They work together, like they listen to each other. She tolerates his horseshit to a point,
Yeah.
and then she gets him to knock it off. And and in the looks that they share at the wedding, and just like the way they hold hands during the ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
like I believe that relationship. I believe Annie's relationship with her brother.
Yeah.
Who's Maddie? Is that his name?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Like that good night when you know it's the last one is
Mm-hmm.
so fucking touching, and it's because you believe this relationship. Like the mother daughter, like I believe that Diane Keaton is so happy for her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Like she is bowled over by all of this. She thinks it is wonderful. She loves Brian, and like I believe every second of it. And it's amazing how much that makes this movie great. You know?
Yeah. I mean,
And
you couldn't do it. It
yeah,
wouldn't succeed if you didn't believe those relationships.
yeah. And this is I think I want to talk about this later. But Steve Martin is so fucking good in this movie.
Yes,
Like
he is.
he's hilarious, and he is warm, and he's loving, and you believe all of it the whole time.
His personality, you know, as this character, but then also I feel like a lot of who he is probably feeds into this as well. Or I mean, it's always hard to say, but it's just, I feel like some actors, you see how much more natural it is for them to just be in the
Yeah.
character.
Mm.
And I think because he seems like he has such a good balance of like the funny and the not so funny, you
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm.
He and that's what makes even the moments that I found sort of like questionable or unlikable, I still liked him. I still like, cared about this character and was like interested. And only someone like Steve Martin can do that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. He's just like, when he does physical comedy, which he does in this quite a bit. Yeah, the I mean, What's New Pussycat is my needle drop, just FYI.
Whoa.
Like that whole scene is so funny. It's just him dancing in front of a mirror, but it's great. And it's because it comes from a place in the character.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can still fit in this thing. Look at how good I look.
Yeah.
I used to wear this. I'm saving some money. Like he's like the whole thing just comes out of who the character is. And even when he's busted, he's like, look at how good I look.
Yeah.
You know, like he's so funny. But the things that really kill me in this movie are the quiet moments with him and Annie. You know, they're just so sweet.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm assuming that it's stuff like that you want to talk about in Adventures in Intimacy.
Hell yeah.
Well, then let's do that.
Because in a movie like this, so much of this is, I feel, obviously you hope that in auditions, the chemistry is just there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's the hope. Sometimes that's why they have a dozen auditions, like multiple times with the same people or variations, you know. Chemistry can be created, but of course, it's a lot easier when it's just there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure, I feel like with this case, the chemistry was found after much auditioning. And I feel like with this, you also need a lot of ensemble work, you know?
Yeah.
You have to build the relationships. You have to figure out, like, okay, how do we relate to one another? One of the first things I wrote down with this was a young couple versus a mature couple, like one that has been together longer. And so, you know, there is a natural way with Nina and George. Like they don't have to always be touching, but there's a tenderness that you still feel between them in the way that they talk to each other, in the way they look at each other. Those subtleties. Whereas like Brian and Annie, because they're new, young and in love, excited, you know, they are close to each other more. You know, not constantly touching. Like I have to say, for a movie about a about to be a newly married couple, they kept it pretty tame. Like,
yeah.
In fact, for both couples, they kept it pretty tame because I think Nina and George get one big kiss near the end. And then Brian and Annie, I mean, they get the wedding one, but they get one big one, like when they've made up after the blender incident.
Right.
And that one is really
with the hand on the knee that George is like,
yeah,
you know.
So that stuff is really cool. To think about like how different couples look. You know, the love is still there. It just looks different, and it's too different. Like,
because if it didn't look different, it would look weird.
It would look forced. It would look like you're trying too hard. And that is not something we get from this at all. Like,
no.
again, it just feels like we are watching people in their natural habitat. Um,
That's Studebaker. That's
the
funny.
oh, okay. The father and daughter relationship is clearly the most important one
Yeah.
in this movie. And, you know, I was noting a lot about like how they would put their arms around each other. Um, and it's different each time, you know, like it's loose, it's natural, it's not as possessive as it sounded in the beginning,
Yeah.
you know? It just they have it's just it's so hard to find words. It like it's one of those things you just know it when you see it, and yet I want to be better than that phrase
Right.
and be able to describe it. But you know, it's again how they talk to each other, how they look at each other, uh, and again the weight of touch a lot of times is something I talk
Mm.
about, like, you know, is it a skin touch, is it a muscle touch? We get a lot of nice light skin touch here, you know, because like there's no desperation necessarily.
Mhm.
Like, and it's a father and daughter. Like, in the age where everyone wants to immediately yell creepy, like,
Mhm.
you have to be mindful of how these things look. And for the 90s, like, this looks pretty incredible. You know, there
Yeah.
was never a moment where
Where you thought
I
Jane
felt
and
weird.
wanted to do it.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and like, again, I think that comes from picking good actors, you know,
Uh-huh.
who respect the boundaries of character time versus personal time, and like also who understand the assignment,
Mhm.
to quote youth, although that's probably antiquated slang now. Um, whatever.
Um. Oh yeah. I just think that there's so much unspoken in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just you can tell that they connect,
Yes.
and it's just very sweet. Um.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I without that, this movie is meh, you know.
Exactly.
But because at the end, when he misses it, like that, it's like a stab in the stomach. Like it hurts to watch him
Mm-hmm.
not see the bouquet. Um, and like you didn't know that he wanted that, but you until it happened, and then you're like, oh my god, he really wants this, and he doesn't get it, and you
Yeah.
feel like he's like all of the parts about how expensive this was fall away for him, and it's just about her that whole time. Even when he's running around parking the cars, which is very funny,
Yeah.
letting the 7 and 8 year old park cars. Uh,
Oh my God.
but it's just like
Not possible.
no, I know. Yeah, Kieran Culkin at that age could not see above this. There's no
Nope.
chance. And
Nope.
press the pedal. It doesn't matter though. It's still funny.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think it really shows in this movie the intimacy between them, and I just think it's really cool.
And you see more and more that like you understand he just doesn't want to lose his daughter. He doesn't
Mhm.
want he loves getting to be the only man in her life, you
Yeah.
know, in the
Mhm.
sweetest and tenderest way possible.
Yeah. And that is I don't have a daughter, but I don't. It doesn't matter in that when your kids hit milestones, you find yourself looking back at the previous ones
Mm-hmm.
and marveling at how you are where you are now.
Mm.
And you will look at pictures of them when they're little and go, "Oh my god, I totally remember when they were this person," you know, and
Yeah.
they're this person now. And you look back at all of those things, and Liam's 13. We're not to high school and college and marriage, and we're not doing those things and looking back
It's
from those
cute.
things. Yeah, right. George didn't. Um, but you don't you don't want to go back to those times, but you deeply miss them. at the
Mm-hmm.
same time that you're looking at this moment right now and saying, I need to remember this because this is a moment. This is one of the big ones. This is this is one of the ones at the next one that I'm going to look back and remember.
Yeah.
And so you try very much to be in that space and supportive and wanting what your kid wants in that moment. And that's, I think, why it's so hard for George at the beginning is you want what your kid wants, but if you don't know that that's what they want, you got a lot of catching up to do. you know
Yeah.
like I knew she wanted to graduate college, and I'm rooting for her to graduate college with this degree. Go, Annie. What, you wanted to do this? Fuck. All right, hold on, give me a minute.
Well, and there were some moments where feminism was thrown into this movie, and I feel like I know why now because they were trying to update the Spencer Tracy version,
Sure.
perhaps.
Yep.
And I mean, the 90s did have another wave of feminism,
Mhm.
and I feel like by allowing that to be part of this film allowed there to be the light discussion of like you can be feminist and still partake in all these antiquated
Mm-hmm.
uh,
You can still have this shit.
traditions. Yeah, you
Yeah.
because I mean I caught myself as I'm watching it like for someone who is so and I thought no that's what the patriarchy wants you to think. No,
Mm-hmm.
you can be feminist and want these things.
Yeah. As long as you're willing to pay $143,000 for them.
No, I just want the bedazzled KitchenAid.
Yeah. Um. All right. Well, let's go to Needle Drop Forest, and uh, it's not really worth talking about Eugene Levy as the wedding singer who auditions for, but
Yeah.
but it's pretty fun. Like it's this weird little aside in the middle of the movie that's like okay, and I don't know
Yeah.
who they hired to do that. Doesn't even matter. But there's a lot of good music in this movie. But my favorite moment is the "What's New Pussycat" moment. Like every time
The,
I try on a tuxedo, I do that. Like
wow.
it's been 30 plus years. Every time, "What's new, Pussycat?" Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah,
I will take that. I mean, the other songs are fine. It's just they're clearly all wedding themed. Um,
I met the boy
oh,
I'm gonna
gonna
marry.
marry. We didn't get Sunrise Sunset. Very disappointed.
Yeah, can't have them all, I suppose. We
We
didn't
didn't
get.
get Butterfly Kisses.
Oh, I thought you were
Oh,
going to say what happens to a general when he stops being a general. That Christmas movie has some weird
no.
music in it. That's all I'm saying. Um. All right.
Choreography.
Um. All right. What else? Time. Um. Is this anybody's defining role? Is it Steve Martin's?
Oh, no, I think it's Annie's.
I
Cuz
think it
like
is too.
it's definitely Annie's. Cuz this
Yeah.
is the one like my mom and I know her in the most, which, then that means everyone. Sorry. If you're
Right.
not your opinion if you're not my mom or me is null and void.
Moot.
No.
She's
um
done some TV shows that I didn't watch. Um.
she was in Nashville which I
That's
saw her
probably.
on. I I can't
She
remember what
was on
else.
one
I
of those
feel like
shows
she's
like Hood or something.
Oh, okay.
Like one of those kind of shows that I just those network dramas that I never watched. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, this is her defining role for sure.
Yeah.
And she is goddamn is she cute.
I
Like
know.
I was just crush on her in 1991. Like it's the only thing I ever saw her, and I'm like, oh my god, I love me some Annie. She's
Yeah,
great.
darling.
Yeah. Um, not Steve Martin's, but for some people it might be.
I think so. Not for me, but
Yeah.
definitely for some people.
What is his defining role for you?
I love him and it's complicated. Like,
Oh my god, really? That's so funny. Interesting.
I know that is so strange to
Uh-huh.
be a defining role for me, but like, we love that movie at my parents. It is so not typical Steve Martin,
Mhm.
except for when he gets high and then you're like, There he is.
It is. That's fun. Yeah. For me, it's The Jerk. Like
Fair.
that's a perfect movie. It's so funny. And even though he's not like he can do so many other things, like Roxanne, which he's fantastic in, or this, or House Sitter, which I think is really really funny.
Okay.
He do lots of different types of roles, and he's great. And his stuff with Marty Short now and Only Murders, I love Steve Martin.
Yeah.
But he is Naven R. Johnson in my heart. So
Okay.
Diane Keaton,
No. Like, that's Annie Hall. That's yeah. That's. I'm sure there are other things. I think it was that movie with Jack Nicholson she did could be a defining role for some people, but it's not this.
It's not this.
No.
Martin Short. Let me ask you: is it Martin Short?
I mean, for me, it could be.
It could be. Franck is very popular. For me, to me, he's Jiminy Glick. What are you? What was it? What are you? My 4 children: Morgan, Mason, Matthew, and Modine.
He's such an asshole as Jiminy Glick. Like, you've only.
Funny.
I'm new to that, and it's pretty great. I need more of that.
You fall down that YouTube rabbit hole. You'll just.
Okay.
Oh my god. He had Paul Schaefer out one time, and it was said something about him being. He said something, and he was like about me being bald. He's like, no, I think it's very brave you kept the eyebrows. And when he had Eugene Levy out, he sits down and he goes, Gabe Kaplan, that's who I'd hoped you were. And shit like that, it kills me. It's so weird and so rude, so funny. So yeah, that or Ed Grimley maybe.
I don't know it.
Oh my! That was the character he did for Saturday Night Live. I must say, where he had the hair that went up and he liked Pat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, come on, don't you think? Yeah, I mean, he's got all of his are so big, but it's not. It could be Franck. For me, it's not, but it very much could be Franck.
I think Franck would be a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone else. Kieran Culkin. It was until Succession, and oh my God, is it Romulus now?
What a name.
Romulus. And not for BD Wong either, even though Howard is great.
Yes.
Yeah. What else do you got for What Else Time? I have 2 other things.
I feel like anything we could have talked about and what else like that I thought about, we already discussed, like how the wedding industry is obnoxious.
Yeah.
I wrote down for me, this movie just brought up something that has probably my first regret as a person. Always a bridesmaid, never a flower girl.
Are you going to be a flower girl?
I never got to be a flower girl.
I never got to be a ring bearer.
It made me so sad because my mom was the flower girl, and I tried on her dress when I was little, so like it bonded us. And from then on, I mean, again, you see Michelle Tanner get to be flower girl, and you're like, well, if Michelle Tanner gets to do it, I want to do it too.
Really fair.
I got to be bridesmaid eventually. Hell, I got to be maid of honor. It's for my sister, so like,
it counts. It counts. Totally counts.
She got totally. Let's be honest, she had to. Although if I was ever going to be maid of honor, easiest one, because girl doesn't go out or do anything. So, and I was 16, so easy job for me. Thanks, Ashley. But yeah, I'm still upset I never got to be flower girl.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. I want to talk about buns and hot dogs.
Yes.
because this is something I did not notice until this last time watching it. And then I was looking at the IMDb page for stuff earlier, and someone actually pointed this out on there. But so the whole deal is that he wants to buy 8 hot dogs and 8 hot dog buns, but no one sells 8 hot dogs and 8 hot dogs. They sell 8 hot dogs and 12 hot dog buns.
Mm-hmm.
So while he's explaining this and shouting at the store clerk, he rips open a bag and takes out 4. And then he's still yelling about it, rips open a bag, takes out 4. Still yelling about it, opens up a third bag, takes out 4. He has now got 16 hot dogs and 16 buns. Or 12 and 12. Whatever it was. Hold on. He removed 12. He removed a full pack of buns.
Oh.
So all he had to do was buy 3 packs of hot dogs, 24 hot dogs, and 2 packs of buns, 24 buns.
Wow.
All of that was unnecessary. If he had just calmed down and bought 3 packs of hot dogs and 2 buns, you don't have to go through all that.
I'm cutting the superfluous dialogue.
It's just extra. You didn't think it up. Think it through, George.
That's hard.
Yeah, it really is. You know what else is hard? And this is my last what else. Being a wedding coordinator. Because Franck is terrible at his job.
Yes, he is.
And I'd never noticed it before. Because Franck is such a silly goofball cartoon character. Mm-hmm. But for $250 a head, here are things that I would never have allowed to happen without demanding a massive refund from my wedding coordinator.
Oh.
I would not, as father of the bride, have missed the father of the bride dance.
No.
The wedding coordinator needs to make sure that shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to wrangle people, not start the song until it's time to go. The father of the bride would not miss the bouquet toss if it was something that he cared about. You would stop the action. You would coordinate. You would let it happen. Bad job, Franck. For $250 a head, $143,000, no one should stand in a long line for food.
Nope.
That's insane. And I don't care where George cut costs. Your services are not worth what I'm paying if this is what I'm getting. I understand the car parkers. Get that. That's on George. They recommended against it, and he went with 2, and it's his fault.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Shit, I forgot the 4th thing.
Well, maybe you'll think about it, because I was going to say this is why we get the wedding planner and J-Lo being excellent as a wedding planner. Years ago.
4th thing. That house is a mess after this event is over.
Yeah.
Many hours after the event is over, Franck didn't hire a cleaning crew for $143,000. Bullshit. Franck is bad at his job.
Mm-hmm. And yet they're going to hire him again.
They do! And the mayor in Jaws is still the mayor in Jaws, too. People are crazy and don't ever learn lessons in life.
No.
But Franck is a terrible wedding coordinator, and I just noticed it.
Because we're so delighted by how funny he is.
Yeah, and you're touched by all of the, how it just doesn't quite work out for George, and he misses these moments, and they hurt. But you're thinking about them from his pain side of things, not from what the fuck is Franck doing? They've got headsets.
No.
They can... Nothing is happening in this wedding that's supposed to. It's a mess. So, bad job, Franck. No. I know it exists. It's one of those...
Watch at least the first 15 minutes, just so you can see, this is exactly what Franck should have been doing.
Right. I will do that. Yeah, I never watched a whole lot of, J-Lo rom-coms.
I enjoy watching her. I think
I don't dislike it.
No, for sure.
I just this is where you were of the age to watch those things, and I didn't.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's early aughts rom-coms, not for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're fine. Give me When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, well, they're not flawless by any means. Like, it's one
Sure.
of those things where if it's on TV and I'm at my parents' house, sure, I'm going to turn on Made in Manhattan. Like,
Sure. I've
why
heard that
would
one.
I not do that? Um, Again, it's just her movies, they bank on J-Lo carrying the whole thing, and it's like,
Mm,
that's too much for anyone. Like, make the writing meet
yeah.
her, you
Yeah.
know? Make the whole movie. I mean, Ray Fiennes is also in it. Like, why are there Natasha Richardson? See, now I'm mad that Made in Manhattan is not a better movie. And if I just ruined anyone's favorite movie, I'm sorry. I just think that movie could have been better.
I like how you got yourself all worked up into a shoot there, and I didn't have to say a word. Like you just dialed your own self up.
I do that.
I
It's
get it.
me.
I like it.
Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
They're gonna make us cut these things out.
I'm sorry. Oh God. That much to everyone else's wish, I'm sure.
All right. So, what do you have for EST?
I think this is the most idealistic uh wedding or look at putting a wedding
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Like
It's
nothing
very
about this.
sentimental for sure.
It's very sentimental. It makes all of this look normal and
Right.
like, oh, they have money, but they don't have as much money as the in-laws, so they're just like you. No, they are not. They are
Revenge.
not like me.
Second, seventh. Yeah. Seventh door on the left. Seventh.
They normalize
Yeah.
things that everyone should have been questioning.
Right. Yeah. Did you need swans?
Like, George, you're worried about losing your daughter? Well, guess what? You still have her to listen to you during this wedding planning process. This is a
Mhm.
good time to say, this is what's worth spending money on. And
Right.
do you want a wedding or do you want a marriage?
Right. No, you're being a cheapskate, Dad. Yeah.
Well, I'm also paying for your college, probably. So,
Well, I'm sure of that. Yeah. And that trip to Rome you just went on. Plus, everybody gets free tennis shoes around this place. That ain't nothing.
no.
You know how often you got to buy shoes for kids or feet grow? God damn it.
I see, and
That
that's
saved us $4,000 in footwear.
wow.
Get no
Yeah.
respect. I'm removing the superfluous shoes. For me, this is the best Steve Martin performance of his career.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because it's funny and touching and dramatic, and you believe all of it the whole time. He's really, really good in Roxanne. I don't know if you've seen Roxanne.
I haven't. It's been so long.
Yeah, he's great in that. But he carries the comedic and dramatic weight of this movie on his shoulders and in his face and in his voiceover, a little bit of voiceover.
Yeah.
But he's so good in this all the way through. And this, again, it doesn't work if he isn't just fantastic,
Yeah.
But comedies don't get rewarded in the ways that they should have. And he should have won awards for this.
Yep.
That's my position. Edict. It's been a while since I've stamped. Still don't have the stamp, but I'd like.
No, we'll get there.
Anything else about this here movie picture?
I don't think so.
Okay. I love Fatherhood.
I do too.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier today who has only listened to our Home Alone episode. And so I said, we're recording Father the Bride. And she said, you don't hate this one, do you? Because I love this movie. Please tell me you don't hate this movie. And I'm like, oh, see, you've only heard one episode. So you think maybe I hate a lot of movies. Oh.
Yeah, that's not what we're doing here.
No, I think we've watched two that I didn't like. I love this one. This is great.
I still think we were far nicer about Home Alone than we could have been. But again, you raise your voice above a 5.
Right. Yeah, Home Alone's a mess.
You give any dissent, then you must hate it. And it's like, nope, it's not it at all.
We live in a world of nuance, and this movie is sweet as fuck. And this wedding's too goddamn expensive, ridiculous nonsense. Remove the superfluous swans, George.
That get put in a tub.
I know.
In my nice clawfoot tub.
Yeah.
Amber's upset again.
I don't blame her. So I think we did it. I think we have once again proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling. Even Father of the Bride. Yeah. So this was the end of season 2. I know.
Goodbye, season 2.
Goodbye, season 2. So join us next week for the season 3 premiere of the Peach Pod After Dark, where we have not yet decided what we're going to watch, because literally yesterday, Leslie watched the season 3 episode of 90210 for the first time. So we have not chosen a film. We're going to do that as soon as we sign off.
That was going to be my question. Are we going to discuss that?
Yeah, we'll figure it out right after this is over. So join us next week for whatever that is. Booze Meisters, Cheese Meisters, all the Meisters.
Yeah.
And until then, cheers.
Cheers.